Yo, whatever level you at, something for you to learn. My knight here, damage pawn structure. It slowly transposed into a Sicilian. Does it not look similar, very similar? Also, let's go into the definition of forcing lines. Forcing lines is a sequence of moves that limits the opponent's options to one or two. So basically saying, hey, you have to do something or lose almost all your advantage. So, as to give even a strategic advantage, forcing lines reduce human variance and clock fatigue by putting the burden of precision on the opponent. I don't think, and I'm not going to try to take a guess. So, the study guide on here, or fish goes through this of likeliness of engine users, but say what is the most engine showing, he makes a top. It doesn't allow my bishop to offer a bishop it by a forcing line. What is I force it to a forcing line, right? Now you ask yourself why anymore, because I'm gonna hang it. Or simply he's going to try to dominate light squares. I'm not even now. As you even seen forcing line. As my opponent striked, I saw this opportunity to simply say, hey, you have to take back or I'm taking your queen. That's why it's called a forcing line. Because knight takes, pawn takes, and immediately the most forcing move is to continue pointed to Sicilian defense, is to trade off this pawn. Simply, I'm gonna put all my pawns and bishop to control the down light squares. So this light square bishop is gonna have. You gotta make a decision. It's literally just forcing moves, gaining tempo, forcing moves. You see what I'm saying? Even though we trade off the rooks, it's the whole point of this is just to simply continue to liquefy the position. I lost my rook. It's a one rook, both bishop, one bishop to two bishop endgame with a minor piece. So I got two minor pieces. He got one. I got 1, 2, 3. We basically white has a pawn majority. Even why I allow my rook to get taken is because number one, I'm gonna try to get trapped, and I have isolated pawns, and these pieces are more active to go after these pawns. So that's why I was willing to sacrifice my rook and say, hey, I'm willing to get endgame activity over a major piece. But let us continue. Obviously, that's why he didn't take. So immediately, right, I know that piece is hanging. I get the chance to defend it. I'm going to defend it. However, this bishop's job is being the anchor for the knight. Because now, now, this knight, because this pawn was guarding the knight, and you got to goes bishop to d5. Trying to, the classical errors, players strictly follow move orders. Willie Lopez was only played via e4, e5. The transition to 1920s, the hypermodern shift. Masters like Nimzo, Witchwe, became realizing the pawn structure mattered more than the move order. So ultimately, putting yourself in a move order sequence that will put you into just saying, I switched it up on you. Do you know your theory on how to play this Sicilian sense? Do you use a call? I always use the engine. I'm saying in the study purposes only. I say again for the record, studying purposes only. After game analogies to opponent into Sicilian style endgame, even if it started as the queen game is one space up instead of two. Now let's go into the piano analogy to give. And why is my opponent doing? To explain in this one, my opponent is doing what? Attacking my knight and what? Pinning my rook. Just to simply put pressure on the rook. Basically suggesting me to move. So even through this, I see how am I going to respond to what he's doing. I'm obviously going to get out the pin. I'm going to move here, rook to c8. But why do I do this? The bishop defends both pieces. So if opponent goes like this, you can just go like that and gain way more access to these squares. Or, even if you really wanted to, you can capture like this and target this isolated pawn. Moves made a major difference. This targeted this pawn, it targets this pawn. See what I'm saying? Even though white has a majority of pawns, as I choose to liquidate the position, my pawn structure is so much. Say it like this. The key in the piano now. So let's see as I read. And there's keys called major key and minor keys. There are chords like augmented seconds to second fourths, major, minor. Major, right? It's all the same. C and Queen's Gambit refined into a Sicilian / English. So now these 31 moves average. You find a percentage of divided by any moves. 31 is 2. Obviously, it's half of it. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Even though the average, all these moves and divided by 2 to get the same number, still took those amount of moves, brings you an exactly different position. I use something called Rote Retrieval to recognize the native who brain trick the resolution. where the song is supposed to end. In chess, for myself, my backwards method is the sheet music. I identify the final note, as you've seen in one of the games I put, the mate in 15, or the technical win, and work backward to ensure every chord and every move sequence leads to that objective. So you play backwards, not forwards. Now, let's just call this a transport protocol. You gotta identify, what am I playing? Now you gotta check what key or what. Check if your opponent's move order for the key shift, the transposition. Check if the opponent's move allows the transposing of one position to another position with you. Your next process is applying forcing lines, using trades and liquidations to force your opponents into your key, your endgame that you know very well and can thrive in, and to verify. Now, obviously, if you need to verify or take your time, using square counting to ensure the technical win is inevitable due to math. Why? In a major piece, 10 fighters against 4 fighters, and only one could really try to put up a fight is the king. So mathematically, I cannot lose unless I literally throw every single piece away. Or say this again, and hope you guys learn something. Freaking, this is how. So average accuracy would be throughout all those positions 30.4. Why? Because you can't use 100 because you wait. It would have to be 10 because you would basically have to. Crap, I gotta execute this better. Crap. I'm gonna go put this in writing. Thank y'all for enjoying. I hope y'all learned this new. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. Bye.
So let America be victorious forevermore. Honor the fallen.